Hey everybody, it's Ben Fung, and this is my week in review, my April Fool's Day week in review. And today I'll start with my April Fool's Day joke, and there's some humorous irony there. Let me read it to you. I wrote early this morning 5 reasons I am dropping my license this year. Number one, the State Practice Act enables me more as a titled academic doctor, my degree, than my license as a physical therapist. Number two, there's more I can do for the public under the health fitness sector versus under the quote therapy sector. Number three, I'm considering to open up a kettlebell clinic. Number four, I am that tired of insurance nonsense, G codes, etc. And finally, number five, just to challenge myself because, in a couple years, I'll retake the boards and keep up with the evidence and that kind of stuff. And I thought it was a great laugh. I got I got actually a lot of concerned messages and emails, and then I had some other people go, "Yeah, go get it, drop that license, go change the world the way you need to." And there's some early realizations this was indeed a April Fool's joke. Shout out to the team at BrandPT, as well as Elliot Davis, and I definitely had a fun laugh about it. It reminded me of last year's April Fool's joke that I put out that I was going to get into politics, and I guess everybody thought it was a great idea. And I thought to myself, well, I think my April Fool's jokes are less jokey these days since everybody supports it. But that's just for the fun and irony. But this week's review comes from the fact that in the first time in forever, I went back to full-time clinical work just for this week. There's a local clinic here that needed my help, and we have a great relationship going together. And I felt that they treated me so well in the past. I wanted to return that favor. They need a lot of help, and it came to me as a great opportunity because I really wanted to see what our customers think of us as both as the general rehab therapy discipline or groups of disciplines, and then as a physical therapist. So there's some realizations about BrandPT. There's some more realizations about the continuum of care, as well as care extenders and how we scale that out in healthcare, and even how we can integrate technology. And then there's a little bit of talk that I'll save for the end about the sad irony about my April Fool's Day post. Andrew Rothschild mentioned that, hey, there's a sad irony here that a lot of my reasons for, quote, dropping my license this coming year are actually quite valid. And so I think that's worth some discussion. Now, the first topic is BrandPT. Intentionally, I asked every patient I had this week, what do you think we do? Or what do you think I do as a physical therapist? And invariably, every single one of them, and they were of the geriatric population group, they all said, well, it seems like you deal with my physical health, my strength, my capabilities. And I asked them, if you had to describe it in a word, what would you describe it? And everybody had kind of a hard time, but one patient called me an externist. And she said, look, I have an internal physician, an internist who's my primary care physician. I have a dentist, I have an optometrist. You seem to be an externist. And that was the first time I've ever heard that from the patient's voice. And I thought that was a great description. It's not the most, brand or image accurate, but it's pretty, it's pretty unique. And I think there's something to explore there because branding is all about branding in the vision and the mind's eye and the voice and language that resonates with our audience, our customers. Number two, the thing I wanted to follow that up with was a general, mindset attitude. I noticed that invariably, if you as a rehab clinician, if you're jazzed up about life, if you love life, your patients will too, no matter how bad it is. And I think that soft skill, it needs to be revisited in force. We've spent so many years on the research, on evidence-based practice, on pain science, all that kind of stuff, which is all well and good and necessary for clinical excellence. But what is just as necessary is that human-to-human connection that, hey, I care about you. I am here. Yeah, sure, you can call me any title. I have this license with these credentials, what have you, but I care about you and what you're going through. And I want to absorb your fears and give you the confidence and the courage to break through barriers and to get through this time, this difficult, frustrating time together. And I think that's so powerful. I was able to convince this one patient who had been on the floor in years to get on a crash pad with me and see how she recovered. She recovered great. She hadn't tried it in years because she was terrified of being on the floor. And that led to another discussion. I showed her, hey, look, you can totally be on the floor. You're younger than this woman here in this video. I have this video on my YouTube channel with a woman who just turned 79, and she was part of my kettlebell class years ago. She was doing kettlebell swing relays where she was swinging an 8 kilo bell, throwing it up in the air, tossing it to me, and I was doing the same to her. And we went down the lateral side of a grass quad, and she was amazing. She was doing Turkish get-ups, you name it, with a hip replacement and some mild scoliosis. So there's really no limits, right? This reminds me of Dustin Jones' saying of old isn't weak and old is not weak, right? Weak is weak, and we can get anybody and everybody of any inclination strong. Now, there's, of course, going to be a confidence range of it. But once I showed this patient who was terrified of the floor, she could get on it and she can get off of it. Well, what's next? Well, let's move on. That's a great time to move on to a Turkish get up and get those areas and movement systems strong and efficient. And that got me to thinking. About that whole movement is medicine phrase that is being thrown out there, and that dosage is key, and that I think we really should adopt it as physical therapists, that what we do, because we affect the movement system, the musculoskeletal system, and everything attached, the neuromuscular and all that jazz, cardiovascular, cardiopulmonary, and even integumentary, we really need to fight for, whether it be the right or the brand or a mixture of both, that our piece of the puzzle, our value contribution to healthcare, is that we utilize the body's natural pharmacy of movement as medicine, that we are the only ones qualified to dose properly so that people can recover from medical conditions, symptoms, and syndromes to optimize a health experience. And I think this is a very, very special thing to be explored. And yeah, sure, there's going to be a lot of people trying to nibble at that piece of the pie, and there's going to be all sorts of opposition and whatnot. But that leads to Andrew Rothschild's statement of the sad irony that my April Fool's Day joke isn't so much of a joke sometimes. I do know of a couple of DPTs who have let their licenses go because they prefer to contribute professionally through their academic training, their professional doctor of physical therapy training, rather than their PT license. And it's a little bit painful to say. It's true, right? We do have limits, but maybe these pioneers who have dropped their license to go to the open market to demonstrate their value, where they have blazed is where we should start laying down the road work. That's just a thought. The final thoughts today on the week in review really have to do with the cost of care. I kept thinking about this week just because there's so many discussions between a clinician and then some of the patients I was taking care of about the cost of care and the continuum of care, and how that should reflect and where physical therapy can contribute to. Dave Kittle tweeted me this week on something we talked about months ago of a 3D gyroscopic, accelerometer, both linear and angular forces wearable device. And I think that's great. That's huge, because that was my dream just months ago, tinkering with my bioengineering mind, of what if there was a wearable that can track gait cadence, stance time, speed, response to exertion, etc. We can pick up on limps before they really become a thing and start contacting different pools of populations of patients going, hey, look, it looks like your gait has changed. Why don't you come on in, or let's do a mobile assessment and see what's going on. That kind of mindset, that big picture mindset, I really believe is where physical therapy needs to start looking into to contribute, both at the the person to person level, because we need that. We need that soft interaction, that human connection of, hey, look, I care for you. But we also need to be a part of the bigger picture so that we can scale out our skills and our value contributions across the broader spectrum of healthcare. That's the only way that we can start chipping